rugged hills of a forgotten war-torn valley, where the wind whispered secrets of lost souls. Sergeant Alexander Hale led his squad through the misty dawn. Alexander was a man forged in the fires of conflict, his piercing blue eyes hiding a heart that still yearned for the quiet life he once knew. At 35, he carried the weight of command like an invisible armor, but beneath it beat a pulse of quiet poetry, dreams of writing verses under starlit skies. His closest comrade was Corporal Elara Voss, a fierce yet graceful woman with flowing auburn hair tied back in a practical braid. Elara, 28 and radiant even in camouflage, had joined the fight not for glory, but for the memory of her brother lost in a similar skirmish years ago. Her name meant shining light, and in the darkness of battle, she was exactly that, a beacon of resolve and compassion. The mission was clear: neutralize the enemy bunker entrenched in the cliffside, a fortress of concrete and steel that had rained terror on Allied positions for weeks. Intelligence reports painted it as a hive of insurgents, armed to the teeth and unyielding. As the sun crested the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Alexander's squad, 10 soldiers strong, approached under cover of jagged rocks. The air was thick with tension, the scent of damp earth mingling with the metallic tang of fear. "Hold steady," Alexander murmured, his voice a calm anchor amid the rising storm. Elara crouched beside him, her rifle steady, her emerald eyes scanning the entrance. She had always been his right hand, her intuition sharper than any blade. "Something feels off," she whispered, her breath warm against the chill morning air. "The report said heavy defenses, but it's too quiet." Before Alexander could respond, a scout returned, breathless. "Sir, thermal scans show heat signatures inside. Multiple but erratic. Could be civilians mixed in." A murmur rippled through the squad. Alexander's jaw tightened. Orders from command were absolute: fire on the bunker to collapse it. But the thought of innocent lives buried under rubble gnawed at him like a persistent shadow. As they positioned themselves, the first shots rang out, not from the bunker, but from hidden snipers flanking their advance. Chaos erupted. Bullets whizzed past, kicking up dirt and stone. "Return fire!" Alexander bellowed, his squad unleashing a volley toward the distant flashes. Elara fired with precision, her shots dropping 2 assailants in quick succession. Yet as the exchange intensified, their focus shifted to the bunker entrance, a yawning maw in the rock face. In the midst of the fray, Alexander spotted movement at the entrance, a small figure, no more than a child, darting out briefly before retreating. His heart lurched. "Cease fire on the entrance," he ordered, but the command was drowned in the roar of gunfire. The squad pressed on, soldiers firing toward the bunker entrance, tracers lighting the path like vengeful stars. Deeper into the assault, the battlefield transformed into a symphony of destruction. Smoke billowed from grenades, obscuring the line between friend and foe. Alexander's mind raced, torn between duty and the flicker of doubt Elara had planted. She fought beside him, her movements fluid, almost ethereal, as if dancing through the peril. "Alex," she called over the din, using his nickname in a rare moment of vulnerability. "We can't just obliterate it. What if there are families in there?" He nodded grimly, signaling for a flanking maneuver. As they advanced, weaving through craters and fallen comrades, a burst of enemy fire grazed Elara's shoulder. She winced but pressed on, blood staining her uniform like a crimson rose blooming in the wrong season. "I'm fine," she insisted, her voice steady, though pain etched lines around her eyes. Alexander's protective instinct surged. Elara wasn't just a soldier to him, she was the light that pierced his war-weary soul, an unspoken bond forged in shared silences and stolen glances. Pushing forward, they reached a vantage point overlooking the bunker. Below, the entrance loomed, pockmarked by bullets. Soldiers continued firing toward it, suppressing any potential counterattack. But then a voice echoed from within, a cry, faint and desperate, in a language Alexander recognized as the local dialect. "Help, children inside!" The squad hesitated. Alexander raised his hand, halting the barrage. "Hold your fire!" he commanded. Creeping closer, he and Elara peered into the gloom. Inside, huddled against the walls, were not insurgents but villagers, women, elders, and children, their faces etched with terror. At the center stood a young girl, no older than 10, with wide, innocent eyes that mirrored the stars. Her name, they would later learn, was Lila, meaning night beauty in her tongue, a fragile flower in the thorns of war. The truth unraveled like a frayed thread. The insurgents had used the villagers as human shields, abandoning the bunker hours ago. Command's intelligence had been flawed, a deadly oversight. Alexander's heart pounded as he radioed for evacuation support, but static crackled in response. Jamming signals, perhaps. The enemy was closing in from the rear, their reinforcements drawn by the gunfire. Elara knelt at the entrance, extending a hand to Lila. "Come with us," she urged softly, her voice a soothing melody amid the cacophony. The girl hesitated, then stepped forward, clutching a tattered doll. One by one, the villagers emerged, guided by the squad's protective formation. But as the last elder crossed the threshold, a mortar shell whistled overhead, slamming into the hillside. Rocks tumbled, and the bunker began to groan under the strain. "Run!" Alexander shouted, scooping Lila into his arms. The squad retreated, soldiers firing suppressive bursts toward the advancing foes. Elara covered their flank, her wound throbbing, but her determination unyielding. In that moment, amidst the hail of bullets, Alexander realized the true power of their bond, not in victory, but in the quiet acts of humanity that defied the chaos. The retreat was a blur of adrenaline and resolve. Alexander carried Lila through the barrage, her small frame trembling against his chest. Elara limped beside them, her rifle barking defiance at the pursuers. The squad formed a human shield around the villagers, their gunfire a rhythmic pulse echoing off the cliffs. Soldiers firing toward the bunker entrance now turned their weapons outward, protecting the very lives they had nearly extinguished. As they reached a defensible ridge, command finally broke through the static. "Hale status?" the voice demanded. Alexander reported the civilians requesting air support, but the response chilled him. Negative. Bunker must be neutralized. Collateral acceptable. His blood ran cold. "There are children here," he protested, but the line went dead. The enemy closed in, their shouts growing louder. Elara met his gaze, her eyes fierce with unspoken love. "We can't let this happen, Alex, not on our watch." In a defiant act, Alexander ordered the squad to fortify the position. They dug in, using the terrain to their advantage. The villagers huddled in a shallow depression, Lila clinging to Elara, who whispered stories of faraway lands to calm her fears. The battle raged on, soldiers firing relentlessly toward the encroaching threats, the bunker now a distant specter. Hours blurred into eternity, ammunition dwindled, wounds multiplied. Elara's shoulder burned like fire, but she fought on, her spirit unbreakable. Alexander, positioned at the forefront, took a hit to his leg, collapsing briefly before rising again. In the lulls between volleys, he confessed to Elara, "If we don't make it, know that you've been my light in this darkness." Tears glistened in her eyes. "And you've been my anchor," she replied, their hands brushing in a fleeting touch. As dusk fell, salvation arrived, not from command, but from Allied reinforcements who had intercepted Alexander's rogue transmission. Helicopters thundered overhead, raining precision strikes on the enemy lines. The villagers were airlifted to safety, Lila waving goodbye with a smile that pierced the gloom. In the aftermath, Alexander and Elara stood amid the ruins, the bunker entrance now silent and abandoned. Command court-martialed Alexander for insubordination, but the story of their mercy spread like wildfire, inspiring a shift in tactics toward humanity over destruction. Elara's wound healed, but the scar remained a badge of their shared valor. Years later, in a peaceful valley far from the war, Alexander penned his verses, Elara by his side, their love blossoming like spring after winter. Lila, now a young woman, visited them often, her name a reminder that even in the heart of battle, beauty and compassion could prevail. The soldiers' fire toward the bunker had not destroyed lives, but ignited a flame of redemption that burned eternal.